senior officials of the NCC, FIC, and the NPA, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored that we meet here today to demonstrate that as a country, we should not allow crime to pay. As law enforcement agencies and regulators, we have moved rapidly in this case. We put our efforts together in a collaborative effort, as the president had announced a week ago, to rescue 230 people who were being swindled unbeknown to them. I think I need to emphasize here that we need to continue to cooperate as various state agencies if we are to win against crime and corruption in this country. People are under attack from COVID-19 pandemic, but they are also under attack from criminals who want to rob them of their last cent. People are desperate, they are losing their livelihood. I think we need to be vigilant because people are going to be probed to unscrupulous predators who are cashing in on this pandemic. I'm here to explain that as the National Prosecuting Authority, Asset Forfeiture Unit, we brought an application to the High Court of South Africa in Johannesburg, South Gauteng High Division, to freeze the assets of the people, of the directors of these companies who want to rob our people of their livelihood. The success of this application is directly related to the productive and professional working relationship that exists between the NCC, the FIC, South African Police Service, and the AFU. Now, if we look at what has happened here, and from listening to what the acting commissioner was explaining, we've got almost 9 contraventions that has occurred here. So we brought an application in terms of Chapter 6 of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act 121 of 1998, which is shortly called POCA, which deals with civil recovery of property, which is the process of unlawful activities, property which represents the process of unlawful activities, instrumentality of an offense referred to in Schedule 1 of POCA. So if you listen to what we have obtained in the freezing order, the 18 million, the 200,000, the 3 motor vehicles, these are all process of unlawful activities or process of crime. So the Chapter 6 civil procedure provisions provide for a 2-stage process in terms of how we finally forfeit all this property and the money to the state. First, we go to court and obtain a freezing order. We've got 2 freezing orders. One we obtained on the 23rd. The second one we obtained on the 28th, because by that time we had not traced all the assets. So we obtained 2 freezing orders. And it's to make sure that no one is going to deal with this property. Neither the directors of this company are going to deal with this property, because it's to secure the assets, to ensure that there's no dissipation pending the second stage, which is a forfeiture application, which we're going to bring after 90 days of obtaining the first order, which is the preservation order. So we were satisfied that there are reasonable grounds to believe that this property is the process of unlawful activities, as the the acting director has explained, that this is process of unlawful activities. If you look at the 9 contraventions that I've referred to, it's racketeering provisions in terms of Section 2 of POCA, money laundering in the sense that they concealed the origin of these funds by moving them around between the 2 accounts. You can also notice that what has happened, that they've contravened Section 5, Section 6, and Section 43(2) of the Consumer Protection Act, Section 22 of Companies Act, because these people were not selling a product. This is reckless and fraudulent conduct of business. This is fraud, this is theft. But it's also contravention of the Banks Act and the Financial Services Act in that they don't have a license to be obtaining cash or getting deposits from the public. So the criminal case is still continuing. Very soon there'll be arrests, and as I've said, the asset forfeiture unit, after 90 days, we are going to have this property forfeited to the state. I want to recognize all the law enforcement agencies and the regulators, in particular Warrant Officer Noche from South African Police Services, who was the first one to get notice, or a whistleblower brought this matter to his attention from East London, that it doesn't look like there's something right here. Look at this. And he then reported the matter to the commissioners we've had, Consumer Commission, and Velapi Mabusa from the NCC then investigated this matter. The matter was further investigated by the FIC, Stephanus van Heerden, who then recognized that in terms of the movement of the fund, this is money laundering, this is theft, this is a pyramid scheme which is in contravention of the law. So I want to emphasize here that as law enforcement agencies, we are not going to allow the criminals to run amok. Whilst our people are suffering like this from this pandemic of COVID, they also then try to fleece them of the little bit that they have. In due course, of course, the matter will be referred to the National Prosecution Services for charges to be brought against the directors of the two companies that are referred to. We in Asset Forfeiture Unit use a civil standard. We don't have to wait for a criminal case to be concluded. As long as there are reasonable grounds, which is a civil standard, that these are processes of crime, we proceed to freeze the assets and forfeit them to the state. Where there are victims, the money is eventually returned to the victims, or if there are no victims, we then send, the money is then deposited into what is called a criminal asset recovery account. Obviously, each case is decided upon its own merits. I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Advocate. I think it's pretty much clear. We are going to open 2 rounds of questions, starting from colleagues who are here. We will then afterwards go to the WhatsApp line. Tagalani is going to assist us with the WhatsApp line. Yes, all right. Please, you give us your name and your media house. Kaya.
Hi, good morning. It's Kaya here from ENCA. I just want to understand, just in terms of the current status of the pyramid scheme. Has it been suspended? And just in terms of now the money of the victims, how soon are they going to get the money back? And maybe just as a last question, in terms of the 2 directors, have they been arrested already? Thank you.
All right. Gerhard?
Good morning. Gerhard Pretorius, also from the NTA. I just, on a point of clarity, Commissioner, you spoke about an increase in this time in pyramid schemes. Are you investigating other pyramid schemes? For instance, a lot has been said about, for instance, Crowd One, etc., etc. Can you take us through? Is there more investigations? How many of these pyramid schemes are you investigating currently? I had a second question which I just lost now. That's fine, thank you.
It's fine, it's fine. You can always go back to that question. Thank you so much, colleagues. Madam Commissioner, over to you. All right, Mr. Joseph Silolo is going to take some of the questions. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. To Gerard's question, indeed, we are investigating a number of the schemes. The ones that the investigations at advanced stage, there's 6 of them. We will not mention their names. It is sufficient to say that we are investigating them. To Kaya's question, the pyramid scheme up money specifically is not yet suspended, but the actions that we've taken in of themselves suspend the pyramid scheme. As it was already stated by the commissioner, in terms, now you see we have 2 CPAs, so for disambiguation purposes, I'm referring to the Consumer Protection Act and not the Criminal Procedures Act. So the Consumer Protection Act says no one, it says a person shall not participate, promote, or join or enter. So that is prohibited. Now, everyone in Up Money has joined or promoted or participated. So everyone there has committed an illegal conduct, an unlawful conduct, by joining the scheme. Now, in our prosecutions, we will be prosecuting everyone. And what we look for is a declaration of prohibited conduct plus an imposition of a fine. The law states that the fine is 10% of a person's annual income or 1 million, whichever is the greater. So everyone who is in the scheme will be prosecuted and a fine will be levied. Now, the funds that have already been preserved are funds that were deposited by the participants. Those funds will not be refunded because they participated in an unlawful activity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to respond to the question from Kaya in terms of how soon can the victims be compensated? The second question was, are the 2 directors arrested? I think Mr. Silolo has alluded to that. They're not yet arrested. The investigation is in its final stages between the South African Police Services. The Reserve Bank has also investigated the matter, the FIC, and the National Consumer Council is investigating the matter. So they're not yet arrested. So the arrest will be made soon as the investigation is completed. Then the question around victims being compensated. So as I explained, we've got a 2-stage process in terms of freezing assets and finally forfeiting them to the state. I also said that each case is looked at upon its own merit. If you are an actual victim that has been defrauded, the state is not going to withhold that compensation or your money. It will not withhold it from you. If you look at this case, each participant had to contribute 180 rands, and we've got over 230,000 participants who willingly participated in unlawful activity. When you look at the merits of this case, this is where the money is going to be forfeited to the state to continue to fight crime. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Can we take WhatsApp or take questions from our WhatsApp group? Takalani is going to assist us with that.
Thank you, Petro. I have two questions right now from our WhatsApp line. And the first question is coming from, or the first two questions are coming from Maya Fisher-French from City Press. And the first one is, it is not often we see successful actions taken against pyramid schemes. What enabled the authorities to move quickly this time? And the follow-up question still from Maya is, what will the process be for people to claim back their money? And we have a question from Humutso Emutise from Eyewitness News, who said, I understand you have launched a similar investigation into crowd. How far are you with that? And we have Jan Kronje from Film24, and the question is, can you please clarify whether participants will be charged for taking place in unlawful activity, or whether they will be getting their money back? I have two different explanations today. Thank you. That's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Takalani. Another question, Acting Commissioner from Humutso Modise from Eyewitness News, goes as follows. How far are you in your investigation into Crowd One? And Zolani from George wants to know if the Commission is investigating WhatsApp giftings and what's the Commission's take when it comes to WhatsApp giftings. Are they pyramid schemes or are just giftings? I'm going to hand over to the both of you, Mr. Slolo and Acting Commissioner. Thank you.
When it comes to WhatsApp gifting, and the question is specifically say, what is the Commission's take on it? The law says an arrangement, agreement, practice, or scheme is a chain letter scheme, and that chain letter is prohibited as well. If it has various levels of participation, existing participants canvass and recruit new members, or each successive newly recruited participant upon joining is required to pay a certain consideration, which is distributed to one, some, or all of the previous existing participants, irrespective of whether the new participant receives any goods or services in exchange for that consideration. And that participant is assigned to the lowest level of participation. And upon recruiting further new participants, or upon those new participants recruiting further new participants, and so on in continual succession, a participant in the may participate in the distribution of the consideration paid by any such new recruit and moves to a higher level. What we know about WhatsApp gifting is that when a person joins, is assigned a low level, and then that person must then recruit, and their money is used to pay the existing people who are higher up in the levels, and then they must recruit. Once they recruit, they move a level up. That's what is called a chain letter in the Consumer Protection Act. It is prohibited conduct. Therefore, this WhatsApp gifting is an illegal activity. Now, the challenge with the WhatsApp gifting is that it happens in a closed community on people's cell phones and so on. Participants do not willingly lodge complaints. The only time they'll lodge a complaint is when they have now lost their money. If we do receive complaints, we will indeed look into it. That is not to say we are unable, where we have information at our disposal, to then investigate on our own accord. But as it stands, we have not received complaints. We have received information as to how they work, but we have not received information on a specific group. I quickly wish to add that stokvel are actually regulated in South Africa in terms of the Banks Act and in terms of the National Credit Act. These two acts contain the exact same definition of a stokvel. In short, it is a rotating financial scheme where people contribute money and they're contributing towards a specific goal, be it social, be it to buy whatever it is that they want to buy. But typically, a stokvel will lend out money on behalf of its members and to its members. And the members participate in the profits of that stokvel. And the members nominate management of that stokvel. So it's not a situation where you go in, they tell you we have a stokvel and this is a manager. The members themselves nominate the management of that stokvel, and they rely on self-imposed regulations. Now, when you look into these stokvels, the alleged stokvels, you find that there is no profit share, and the emphasis is on recruitment. There was a question that asked if participants will be charged. In terms of the Consumer Protection Act, yes. We will be taking action against all participants and promoters, those that went to social media to promote the scheme. We will be taking action against them. Pumuzo asks about progress on Crowd 1. Crowd 1 has been served with our investigation certificate. The investigation is ongoing. We believe that we should be able to release our findings in about 3 months or so, because it is quite a complicated investigation. Maya asks what made us move quickly. Advocate Rabaji mentioned a particular warrant officer, Nohe. He was the first warrant officer to investigate the matter and supply many regulators with his findings on the matter. With that, we had sufficient cause to move. That's what made us move quickly. And when you look at the figures the commissioner gave, from 4 May to 2 July, 42 million went into the scheme. And when you look at the flow of funds to related entities, you then understand the magnitude of the scam. We had to move swiftly to bring it to an end. I don't know if I missed any other question. Okay, thank you.
There's a question that says, how can people claim back? What is the process to claim back? Now, I want us to distinguish between a victim as well as a participant who knowingly engage in prohibited conduct, as my colleague explained. A victim claims back from the criminal asset recovery account, as I've explained, after we have finalized our asset forfeiture proceedings. So with this scheme, this pyramid scheme, I think, as I explained, each case is looked upon its own merits. It seems that most participants knowingly engaged in this prohibited conduct, so they cannot be in the same breath be victims. I want to latch on to the question around swift action. If we as regulators and law enforcement agencies act in a collaborative fashion, we will be able to act on a crime that's been committed within 2 months. Because if you look at the FIC regulations, the minute they assess movements of funds in an account, like they assessed movement, lots and lots of transactions, lots of 180 rands being paid into this account, and they freeze in terms of their act, their account. We as Asset Forfeiture Unit in the National Prosecuting Authority, we've got only 7 days within which to bring a High Court application. So hence I congratulated the 3 investigators who worked in this case, because they did sterling work. When Warrant Officer Noche distributed his findings to all the law enforcement agencies and regulators, who are able to move in swiftly, given the various legislation that enable us to act. So it's because of the collaborative manner that the President also emphasized that we are able to act swiftly against crime and corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate. Do we have more questions? From your side, Takalani? Thank you.
No, thanks, Peter. There's no any other further questions. Thank you.
All right, from the floor? Okay, nothing from the floor? Okay, sure. Yes, you may.
I just want to know about warning systems, because this whole thing seems like reactive. Does government have any measures to warn people before things happen?
All right, Excellent Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you. The issue of early warning systems, it's really very relative, because on the issue of a reasonable suspicion, you have to establish that first before you can act. So in this case, we are moving as quickly right now to have this media briefing solely to let South Africans know, especially now, because when we were doing our looking at the trends in relation to media that we had scanned, we realized that some of the schemes, when they are being marketed, they would use elderly people to say they've received this groceries, they've received this and this and this and that. So what we are doing today is to now say to South Africans that any pyramid scheme is prohibited. So this early warning sign to participants, I know that sometimes we feel a little bit sympathetic to some of the people that we assume that they will be victims. That's why in address we say that some of the unsuspecting people. But what we have realized with South Africans is that most people understand what pyramid schemes are. That's why now we go to like 250,000 of people that are participating in such schemes. So we will try our best, we do try our best to actually, in terms of now our media trends analysis, tracking and all that, to look into practices that we see on the ground, including also the issue of the chain letters that we have seen now, where people are using this WhatsApp giftings and all that, calling them all fancy names. We are trying our best. But what is interesting in this area and in most of the schemes that we're investigating, as you would also recall what we had with Triple M last in the previous years, is that immediately when you start investigating and people are aware of the investigations, they simply disappear. Even people that will be standing up as proponents of those schemes, they will simply be quiet. So that is the problem that we have, as my colleagues had said, that even the participants themselves, they know it's illegal, hence they don't come forth. And we have a problem in really using early warning systems, because once you pick them up and then you start taking people either on their WhatsApps or their Facebook, they simply disappear. So that is the challenge that we are having with such schemes. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Commissioner. Anything from your side, Advocate? Nothing. Mr. Slolo, you covered. Colleagues, I think this brings us to the end of our briefing. We will, however, allow one-on-ones just after, once we are done here. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, all right.